Welcome everybody by today's video about a canon we made for the course Applied Economic Analysis. The topic of this canon is behavioral economics. First, we're going to have an introduction about behavioral economics and what it really is. Then, we're going to describe two theories that can help explain behavioral economics. Finally, we can apply the theory to environmental issues. First of all, we look at what behavioral economics really is. Behavioral economics provides insights into the way people make decisions about their actions. And it's aimed at bridging the gap between theory and reality, leading to more realistic predictions. It's more realistic because we now include bounds of rationality of economic agents, because not all economic agents act rational or self-centered. So we can use behavioral economics in two subsets of economics. First of all, you have microeconomics, which studies individual actions of customers and firms. Then we also have macroeconomics, which studies effects of banks or countries on a larger scale. So, because we're looking at behavioral economics of an individual, microeconomics is more important, so we'll focus on that. We have two theories that can describe behavioral economics within microeconomics. First of all, we have utility theory, that looks at the utility that someone derives for a certain product or a certain good. And the individual will want to get the most utility out of this product, so we'll choose that one. Also, we have game theory. Game theory is actually a multi-person decision problem and called a game. And a game is a situation in which two or more individuals have at least partially diverging interest and they interact with each other. Game theory wants to describe how people are going to behave if another person has an option to choose as well. We can describe game theory by looking at the prisoner's dilemma example. So now we're going to look at the example of the prisoner's dilemma. We have two persons, Isabelle and Julien. They are both suspects of a crime and they're held at a local police station. They either have two options: to confess that the other one has committed the crime, or to not confess at all, which means that they also keep silent. We see that if they both confess, that the police is not going to believe either of them and will get 2 years to serve in prison. However, if Julien, for instance, confesses that Isabelle has committed a crime and Isabelle remains silent, then the police is going to believe Julien, which means that he does not have to serve time in prison and Isabelle gets 3 years. The other way around holds when Isabelle confesses and Julien does not confess. However, the best option for them is to both remain silent. Then they have to serve 1 year, both of them. However, then the complete number of years served in prison is the lowest. We can see that people would act rational and choose for themselves, act self-centered and choose to confess. However, they will end up in this situation where they both have to serve 2 years. We can apply this theory to environmental issues. This is also called the tragedy of the commons. This example mentions that they have two farmers, for instance, which have a field and they have to put cattle on the field. However, if both of the farmers put all of their cattle on the field is going to be worthless because of the cattle eating the grass. So the best option for them is to make a binding contract by not putting too many cattle on the field, which keeps the field in a good way, and however, they can still have a profit from the cattle that is currently on the field. So this shows that by the prisoner's dilemma, we can use this theory in order to make a solution for environmental issues, of course also through the tragedy of the commons. Okay, so now that we looked at the prisoner's dilemma and the tragedy of the commons situation of cattle on the field, we can use this theory to apply to more examples in the real world. For instance, overfishing in the ocean, depletion of oil and gas reservoirs, pollution, and also global warming, of which the latter one is of course an important aspect. We can find several solutions for the tragedy of the commons situation, next to the binding contract we discussed before. We have property rights, taxation, and referencing. For property rights, you can assign a property to an individual. And of course, this individual doesn't want their property right to be harmed. So they have an incentive to not overexploit this property. For taxation, it's obvious that people do not want to pay more when they have to produce more products and exhaust more CO2 emission. And of course, this makes not cooperating more expensive. Then we have referencing. Referencing compares individual behavior with average social behavior, or for instance the social behavior of a neighbor. So, if a state produces more CO2 emission than another state, it will likely want to change that in order to compel with the other behavior. Now, we can conclude that microeconomics can explain human decision-making based on behavioral economics, utility theory, and game theory, as we've shown in this presentation. Possible solutions for the tragedy of commons are binding contracts, property rights, taxation, and regulation and referencing. Of course, these solutions can be used to, for instance, help save the global warming issue, and other issues as well. If you have any questions after this presentation, you can contact us at the email addresses stated on the slide. I want to thank you for your attention, and hopefully you've learned a lot throughout this presentation. Thank you.